It's food as a commodity. So now I will explain a bit what I do understand by food as a commons. What's my understanding of the commons? Because there you will see there are three understandings, three major dominant understandings. My conception that why I consider food should be treated as a commons is a commons is material, non-material resource developed and maintained by communities. So it's basically we, the people who create governance systems, we, the people that decide that any given resource should be governed and or owned as a commons. We define the rules by which the commons would be governed. The commons can be owned by private hands, by public, or by collective means. It doesn't. I mean, the commons, they don't need to be owned collectively. And we consider, we the people, that's important. We consider that any given resource is a commons because, and that's one of the key things, because the commons benefit everybody and they are essential for everybody. So if it's essential, if any resource is essential for our livelihood, it cannot be left only to the market rules. It cannot be only left to supply and demand. That's my understanding, but that's not the prevalent understanding of the commons. Many people, well, most of the people, they understand commons either as a resource that is owned collectively. As you have here the three types of proprietary regimes. Okay? Any given resource, basically the material ones, it can be owned by the state, it can be owned by collective groups, or it can be owned by private individuals. That's the legal approach to the commons. And then within those proprietary regimes, you may have different entitlements. You may get access, withdrawal, etc. But in principle, that's the legal approach. Who owns the resource? Then you have the economic approach. And this one is the hegemonic over there. Okay? Outside in the street, whenever you ask anyone that has any minor idea about the commons, basically he or she will think through the economic lens. The commons, according to the economists, and this highly reductionist and theoretical approach to the commons was developed after the Second World War. A commons is a resource, well, that is non-excludable. You cannot exclude people from getting access to the resource, like fish in the oceans, but it's rival. If I consume one fish, that fish cannot be consumed by you. And then the economists, based on only those two characteristics, rivalness and excludability, well, they thought that public goods are those that are non-rival, non-excluded. This is a highly prevalent but theoretical approach, because there are thousands of exceptions to this economic approach. And at the same time, and it's something that I criticize a lot, it's highly ontological. Because they don't say that different goods, they work like private good or public good, depending on circumstances, depending on history, depending on the social arrangements. No, they say that they are public goods. They are private goods. So it's in the nature. Well, I don't know if it's not evident, because everything related to the commons or the consideration of any given resource as a private or public, it's our social arrangement. So it's not in the nature of the resource. So well, I apply that idea to food. Those are the four natural elements that we human beings require to survive. Well, I'm living in Belgium, so there is not much sunlight. And well, actually that's true. I mean, we need to take pills. I mean, especially our children, they need to take pills in a regular basis to compensate the lack of vitamin D, because we don't have enough sunlight. But anyway, all those three things, air, water, and food. So far, air is in commons. Water, it used to be in commons, and it's now, as you know perfectly, in Italy, it's in the process of being privatized. That process is very contested, because, well, if it's a commons and it's everybody's, let's say, it's a resource that everybody needs, well, it cannot be completely privatized. Fine, I totally agree. But then you go to food, and most of the people accept that food is already totally privatized, and it's fine. Well, why? And it has been so, basically, in the last 100 years, and that's why we now accept as a given that food can only be considered as a private good and a commodity. My approach to the different consideration is based on the multidimensionality of food. Food can be traded in the market. Yes, of course. So there is a tradable dimension of food. Food has always been traded in the market. Yes, since we left the trees as human beings, well, we have been first hunting, gathering, and then we have been cultivating, and our outputs, I mean, the food produced through those means, it was always exchanged. Not always exchanged in monetary terms. We were exchanging, bartering, gifting, but it's true that the market is important. But my point is that there are other dimensions quite important for human beings, like being essential. So if food is essential for each of us every day, how can you put a price to something that is essential? In principle, it would be priceless. So essentiality means that, well, if we produce enough food, and there is enough food for everybody, and there is a sort of basic pyramid of needs, and eating is at the very base, the market does not guarantee that everybody gets access, because it depends on the money. So if you don't have money, you don't get access to food. Food is also a human right, legally speaking. Since the 76, the International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights that already included several needs as a right, well, food is legally recognized as a human right. How do you put the price in the market to human rights? Well, you cannot. Food is extremely important for our culture as an individuals and as a society. Something that is completely obvious here in Italy. So how do you put the price to a cultural issue? How do you put the price to the importance that your mama's pasta, the importance of your mama's pasta for you? How do you value the importance of tomatoes for your culture? How do you value now in Italy that you basically recognize that your gastronomy, your cuisine, your recipes are something that is really important, not just for you as a society, but it's economically important. It's a trademark of Italy, exporting food and exporting gastronomy. But those things really, they cannot be priced. And then, of course, well, food is also a public good, because throughout history, all different governments and the ruling elites, they have always been using food as a way of appeasing people, pacifying people, as a way of increasing, putting pressure on societies. Food has been used as a weapon. Food has been used as a political tool. So, as five of those aspects cannot be properly valued in the market, they cannot all, I mean, food cannot only be considered as a commodity. That's why food as a commodity, the current situation, only values one of the food dimensions. And this dimension is price, therefore, in economic terms, the value in exchange works at that point. Food as a commons, however, it values the multiple dimensions of food. The multiple dimensions that are relevant to human beings, the value in use, and therefore, well, food as a commons would be what a society does collectively through private, state, and self-regulated provision to guarantee one of the main elements of producing food is that everybody should eat. So if we guarantee that through our new food system, everybody can get access to food, well, at least we are already fulfilling one of the main purposes of producing food. Again, I'm pretty much against this idea. Only your purchasing power cannot exclusively determine the access to food, because food is an essential. So what do we do? What can we do? I mean, if we cannot keep on working in a business as usual, if everybody, all the governments and the UN institutions, international institutions recommend a radical change, if we have already reached the oil peak and climate change is already threatening our food production, we need to transit, and that's probably you have heard this word transition. We need to transit towards a different, fairer, and more sustainable food system. In order to do so, I think that we need to have a different paradigm. We don't just need to have different policies or different legal propositions. We don't need to have different funds for different activities. All those things are doomed to fail unless that we bring with us a paradigm shift, unless that we provide an alternative set of ideas. Okay, food as a new old commons is new because it's a new paradigm compared to the current one, but it's old because indigenous groups, in Italia, the partecipanze de Nonantola, in Spain, we have still food producing commons, you will see later on at the end with very quick examples. Through agroecology, creative commons, open knowledge, polycentric governance, that you see what it is. I mean, we can devise a different system. We can organize food production in a different way, but if we depart from a different conception and valuation of food. Instead of this triangle between collective actions, the states, and the markets, instead of having this triangle fully occupied by the market, let's say 90%, and state provision 7%, we could have a better balance between people producing food by themselves, partially, a different partner state, a state that really enables society to do things by themselves and to govern food, to have a stronger say in food production, and a different type of market. A market where profit maximization is not the driving ethos. Well, profit is fine, but not profit maximization at any cost. So with this new paradigm, new narrative, we could have, for instance, farmers as civil servants. We could ban legally food speculation, because food speculation is not working neither for you, eaters, nor for the food producers. It's only working for a few brokers. We could have incentives and subsidies that so far through the common agricultural policy are channeled towards the biggest partner, the biggest food producer. Those ones could be channeled towards small producers, organic producers. Food banks, instead of being based on charity, could be based on human rights. School meals could be guaranteed as a universal entitlement to every kid that is attending the school, as we in Europe guarantee a place in a school for anyone. Because education is a public good and it's a right. Food is neither a public good and is not treated as a right. Another crazy idea, well, we could do, if we think that it's important to fight climate change and at the same time producing food in a polycentric way, we could oblige everybody to green in the roof, to put either vegetables or pasture over the buildings. Well, you just need to have a policy and to provide some subsidies. But first, you need to think that this is important. This is a priority. Free bakeries. In order to guarantee a minimum access to food for everybody, we could have public bakeries where they guarantee you one baguette per person per day.
Not in Italy.
And just to end with some examples on current food producing systems based on the commons in Europe, I'll give you, well, this one is my mother. My mother is collecting clams in Galicia, in the northwest region of Spain, where I was born. And clams and seafood is a food commons. And she's living just opposite to that coastline, to that small beach. And what she's doing, it's relatively illegal. Well, let's say it's illegal. Because she does not belong to an official confrérie. It's a brotherhood of professional fishermen. That means professional fisherwomen. But, she's taking care of that beach. She's cleaning the beach every week, removing plastics, and she's living there. She's not entitled to do anything there, because it's now legally forbidden. But those clams, to whom do they belong? Well, to all of us. And we can say something to her more than to us, because you don't live there and she's living there. Well, Water Tribunal in Valencia. Now that's Università Agraria di Sacrofano in Lazio. That's a very historical Middle-Age building that it owns common territories with pasture lands where they produce mushrooms, and those institutions coming from the Middle Ages are still surviving. Why they are still surviving? Because they are useful for people. Every man's right in Scandinavian countries, in Sweden and Norway, you can go anywhere and to fish, collect mushrooms, pick up berries in anybody's property. Because that comes from the traditional beating legal system. In that case, customary legal system. Crofts in Scotland, all of them are collective proprietary rights in areas that produce food. Bambios in Portugal. Still, all of them are systems that were crafted in the Middle Ages and are still surviving. Montes Veciñais in Mancomún in Galicia, my region, 25% of Galicia is still owned in collective hands. Actually, 5% of total Europe, 12 million hectares, are owned or governed in a collective way. So, not the whole Europe is either owned by the state or by private hands. But, despite this cultural, economic, and social importance that the territories of commons, food-producing territories, have for us, Europeans, there is no mention at all to the commons in the common agricultural policy. And actually now there is a proposal to change the name, and the common agricultural policy could be renamed as Commons Food Policy. It shouldn't just be dealing with agriculture, it should be dealing with food in general, and also in a commons way. Not just common because it's common to all the countries, but commons with S, because we, Europeans, we need to have the same. And that's it. I mean, and I would like to always, I very often end my presentation with Eduardo Galeano's sentence about utopia. Because many of you may think that considering food as commons is a very utopian idea, and actually you are right. But utopias are good things, not bad things. So nowadays in our very technocratic society, being called utopian, it's almost an insult. But utopia is always every political idea, the very first time that is thought, it's a utopia. But utopia is a place, an aspect, inspirational and aspirational place where we need to arrive. So utopia lies in the horizon. When I grow nearer by 2 steps, it retreats 2 steps. No matter how far I go, I can never reach it. What then is the purpose of utopia? Well, it's to cause us to advance, to make us move forward. And as Tommaso said initially, it took the neoliberal system and the neoliberal scholars more than 50 years since they started developing the idea of neoliberalism till the current situation. For sure, it will take us at least another 50 years to decommodify food and to elaborate a different discourse that finally will be materialized. But this one is going to be the first thing. Thank you very much.